Hey everyone, Matt here from Docs Running, and today we're going to do a comparison review, or should I upgrade episode, of the Asics Gel Kayano 31 and the Asics Gel Kayano 30. Now, version 30 was a massive overhaul of this series that completely changed things from a fairly traditional premium stability shoe that's medially posted to a very centrally guided shoe with both medial and lateral stability, a brand new 4D guidance system, which we'll talk about in just a second, and a brand new fit of kind of a like slightly wider fitting thing that was very different for the Kayano series. I really enjoyed it. I got 100 miles in it. I've got that video. Version 31 just came out. It features some mild updates throughout the entire shoe, but there are still some similarities which might leave you going, which one of these should I consider? So I'm hoping this review helps you figure out, if you're interested in the Kayano series, which one should you be looking at. I'm going to have two different opinions on this that hopefully help you. As always, we're going to start with specs. So the Kayano 30 is coming in for men's size 9, women's size 10.5 at 10.7 ounces or about 303 grams. The stack height is 40 millimeters in the heel, 30 in the forefoot for a 10 millimeter drop. Very similar over in the Kayano 31. We're coming in at 10.7 ounces for men's size 9, women's size 10.5, 305 grams, 40 millimeters in the heel, 30 in the forefoot also for a 10 millimeter drop. The sole features the same Pure Gel in the heel with Flight Foam Blast throughout the length of the shoe. Very similar in terms of ride with a couple small updates. Now, despite having similar foams, things are a teeny bit different. The rear foot is where we're going to start. There's a little bit less of this lateral heel flare here. It's still there a little bit, but the transition is a little bit smoother in the 31. Both of them have some significant posterior heel flare, which again causes just a little bit of early heel contact, but fortunately the geometry is set so they actually collapse fairly well. I will say version 31 does break in a heel strike a little bit better than version 30, but not a huge amount. Enough that I've really enjoyed it, but not enough that I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a really big thing. Small changes that make for the rear foot transition a little bit easier. Midfoot is just as stable, nice wide midfoot and nice wide base throughout the length of these shoes, and the forefoot ride is very similar with just a tiny bit of flexibility, a little bit of toe spring. So those people with stiff forefoot, you should do fairly well on this. It's not the most stiff shoe on the market, but those with some mild mobility issues in your toes, you should do absolutely fine. Now, the 4D guidance system has some internal geometry in the shoe that you can feel. By the way, it almost feels like you're getting pushed just a teeny bit loud. There's a little extra pressure along the full length of the medial side of the shoe, but fortunately there are sidewalls on both sides and wide sole flare that keeps you very centered in both these. You're not necessarily going to feel like you're getting pushed one way or the other. The one interesting thing about this is this 4D piece right here is actually a more responsive sole that when you land at the midfoot, it actually is supposed to bounce you back out. So instead of having a medial post, which is generally a firmer material, this is actually a more resilient material. Version 30, I honestly really didn't feel this at all. It just felt like it's a good wide platform with sidewalls, a centrally guided shoe that felt fairly, not as big of a stability shoe as previous versions, but still kept you in the middle. Version 31, they've increased, I don't know if it's the responsiveness is what it feels like, but I actually get some bounce out of the midfoot when I hit there. So I noticed this, and the midfoot arch feels higher in version 31. So people that miss the kind of like medial post arch support like feeling in version 30, you're actually going to feel this in version 31. That was something I noticed immediately going, oh, it almost feels like there's a post without feeling like it's getting in the way. I do feel some pressure along a large length of my medial arch. I still feel a little bit pressure in the forefoot and heel because the internal geometry will support you throughout the length of the foot. But this midfoot 4D guidance system, this foam does get you some bounce out of the midfoot, which is kind of the thing I noticed about the entire sole. This is not a faster shoe. It's meant for training miles. It's 10.7 ounces for men's size 9, women's size 10.5. My size 10 is coming in at 11.3 ounces, so not the lightest shoe. Does best for easy runs, longer runs, but not anything fast. That said, there's a little bit more bounce in this midsole, a little bit more cushion in version 30. And so just a tiny bit softer, tiny bit bouncier, not something significant, but just enough that I noticed it. And at the end, the other thing that I did really notice was the bounce out of the arch. So if you really like that feeling and like something that helps you control the movement through pronation, you're going to really like version 31. But version 30 still keeps you very centralized and guided Well, the upper is also a little bit different. So version 30 definitely fit wider, although the volume was just a teeny bit lower because the upper was fairly thick. They've updated version 31 with a little bit thinner upper that's definitely more breathable, and I noticed that. But it's just a teeny bit more breathable and a little bit thinner, which allows you to have a little bit more wiggle room up top. So people that have a little higher volume foot, you might do a little bit better in version 31 than you do in version 30, but they are fairly similar. Really padded heel, so people with heel sensitivities, you're not gonna have to worry too much. Even though there is a very stiff heel counter back here, it hasn't bothered me because there is so much cushioning in the rear foot. Because of how relatively thick the uppers are, especially in the rear foot, and both tongues are gusseted, I haven't had any security issues at all. So even if you have a wider, normal width foot, you're gonna do absolutely fine. People with a narrow foot, you may struggle with this a little bit, but there are some alternative size like widths out there that you might want to consider. So last thing is durability. I have 100 miles on version 30. I've got 25 miles on version 31. They're wearing exactly the same. The durability is really good. The grip is really good. More of a road shoe than anything else. The outsole is just a tiny bit softer in version 31. There's a teeny bit quicker wear, but really nothing to pay attention to. And I really expect to get just as many miles out of this. And I will try to get a 100-mile review for version 31. But it's very, very similar shoes. So my honest opinion about these shoes, if you're on a budget, go buy version 30. They're not different enough for you to really go for the now $165 Kayano 31. Go buy the version 30 on sale. If you are someone who wants a little bit of that midfoot post-like feeling without having that, if you want a little bit more bounce from the midsole, a little bit more bounce from that arch, and a little bit thinner upper with a little bit more volume, then you actually might want to consider version 31. I do like 31 better. The heel transition's a little bit smoother. I like a little more bounce, a little bit more arch feeling if I'm going to use a stability shoe, and the fit just a little bit more optimized. So I personally would go for the 31, but I can totally understand, especially budget-wise, if you don't want to go for the 30, because they are very similar. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. If you've tried these shoes below, what do you think? Are they similar? Are they different? Let us know below, and as always, we hope these reviews help you make your decisions.